Alright, last time I tried to do this, I accidentally had my microphone muted, which was great. Uh, Basically, I'm making this for a friend, but it can serve as an introductory Vorkath guide for people who are having difficulty or people who want to get their assembler or finish the quest. The idea around this gear set is just to maximize range defense and have 3 sources of Dragonfire protection at all times. So it can be downscaled as well as your stats, but it will make it slightly harder. Obviously, the Justiciar set effect reduces incoming damage by 10%. The Dragonfire shield counts as a Dragonfire protection, of which we'll need 3 sources. And the Salve Amulet is just because Vorkath is a zombie, we get our 20% with all styles. I believe accuracy and strength bonus, basically, so it's best in slot. Blue dragons are my task, but this is still better than a Slayer helm, so that's what we use. The rest of the gear is just, filler prayer / strength bonus. Just use your best. I still bring sort of a one-click teleport. This also happens to be how I get here. So in the inventory, you have a special attack weapon. BGS happens to be better than a Warhammer, but I like the convenience of one swap item. I don't need an inventory space, which can help if you loot between kills because the mentality is to just fill up the inventory, and obviously that'll make it more difficult to spec the second kill. Before each fight, you drink a super combat potion, an extended super anti-fire, which counts as your second 2 sources and of Dragonfire protection, and an anti-venom, so that you can just completely ignore his green flame attacks. A couple prayer potions. I bring Quran ones because they're so cheap, and because they're slightly faster to eat than a regular food, but really it's because they're cheap. I end up dropping a lot of supplies at the end of my kills typically. I get about 3 kills, and that fills up pretty much this whole space. You want, for a melee setup, you want higher than negative 65 attack bonus. You see, even if I switch to the Slayer Staff, I'm still at negative 93, so I use Bloodbark. Mystic works great. It actually has a higher mage attack bonus, but the only thing that's important is above negative 65. So on the Slayer Staff, you use it because you can auto-cast Crumble Undead, which you need for the Facehugger phase. And that pretty much covers the gear required. So on to the special phases. He has a Facehugger phase where he'll freeze you, like with an Ice Barrage, and you have to switch. And since Crumble Undead is autocast, you can just click on him, and as soon as you see the XP drop, it's a safe time to potion or food if you need it. As the phase is over once you see the XP drop. Is acid phase. It's the most likely thing to kill you. You want to be walking when it happens. I like having my run energy on. So what I tend to do is I make sure I'm zoomed out all the way. And when he starts it, I just click somewhere over there, and I click walk, and I just try and find what I like to call aisles. Sometimes it's hard to spot one, but the idea is just that you have 5 or 6 tiles between poison splats, so you'd have one there and one there on the marked tiles. And, it's doable even with this. The idea is you just don't stop moving, otherwise you'll get hit about 30 damage. And this is also a safe time to food and potion up. The idea is you click, food, click, food, click. It's easier because you'll tend to find longer channels. You can also go vertical if that happens to be easier. Once you hit walk, like you might miss walk. So what you do is you click like that, and or maybe you turn your prayers off, which is fine. You don't need prayer on for this phase. So if you do that, don't worry about it. You click off, and then you just make sure you keep moving, and then click walk again. The poison only deals like 10 damage max, so it's not a big deal. He's got so much health that the fact that you heal him honestly does not matter. And that's the acid phase. He'll start with either acid or facehugger randomly, and he will swap between the two. The other thing I do is the melee attack tends to be more accurate. So to try and avoid it, instead of standing in melee, I stand here and I walk in, attack, and I walk out. And with weapons like the whip or the lance, as soon as the walk animation stops, you're ready for the next attack. Step out, and you just have a pattern. This will force him to... Well, it doesn't force him because eventually you'll walk in on the same attack or the same tick that he starts an attack, and he can melee you. But it makes it less likely for him to melee you, and therefore it makes him more likely to mage you, which you're completely protected against because you're praying mage and piety the whole time. And additionally, more likely to range you, and that's why you maximize range defense. It costs 100k to reclaim your stuff if you happen to die. And, his typical loot is somewhere in the ballpark of 60 to 100k, so 1 or 2 kills will pay for a death. You'll probably die starting off, but it's not that big of a deal because you can just keep killing him and you'll get better at it. You'll freak out a lot less when he does his special attacks, and sometimes I still die. I still don't have a ton of kill count, maybe 100 or so, and it happens. Like, it's not that big of a deal. You'll make tons of money here if you just stick with it. So yeah, I suppose it's worth mentioning that he sometimes looks up and has a big fireball, and you want to just move 2 tiles away. That's why I keep run energy on during most of the fight. If you're on the same tile as when he casts it, you die. Doesn't matter what your hit points are. If you're 1 tile away from it, he tends to do around 40 to 50 damage, which typically means that you die anyway, unless you were topped up. And he can cast it, twice in succession, or, almost as many times as he wants. That being said, I've covered everything that you have to worry about except his prayer attack. He'll occasionally do purple fire breath that turns off your prayers. You just have to turn them back on. Continue the kill as normal. That should cover everything, and I'm just going to do 3 kills and commentate during them. So, you special weapon, special attack, drink your potions, Oak Vorkath, attack him. I was lucky. Once you get the first with the Warhammer, it's easier to get the second, obviously. So that's the purple one, turns off prayer. That's a ranged attack. I'm standing off to the side because it's easier to see the attacks. That's acid. And yeah, just try and get into one of these aisles. I'm just going to eat. I'll need room for loot anyway. And just click, 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 click. You know, that's his melee attack. Like I said, sometimes you're just on the wrong tick. And so you try and stay out. That's a mage. The blue is mage. Green is venom. You ignore. Dragonfire, you ignore. White is the facehugger phase. I messed that up. I'm supposed to do brew Karambwan, but you can eat off of those phases, but I try not to. Minimize the time that he could be fireballing me and I have to react quicker than I'd like. So yeah, just try and walk yourself into one of these lanes or aisles, and you'll find it's a lot easier. You can just click occasionally, and just before you get to the end of it, you click out. There's a fireball. So yeah, the timing on this is CXP walk back. Oh, okay, let's do a quick facehugger. See the XP, walk back, see stop animation, walk back, see so like when he stops the walk animation, that's when you want to start another kill. Not sure if I explained that, but that's what you're supposed to do if you bring Karambwans. Otherwise it's food potion. Karambwans, it's potions food. If you're really having trouble, you can food potion Karambwan, but that's a little too high level, I think, if you're having trouble with Vorkath. You don't want to add things to potentially mess you up. So, second kill, same as the first, drink potions. It's not the end of the world if he melees you, obviously, because sometimes he won't hit you anyway, but if you minimize it, you tend to take less damage. A lot of folks will just stand in there. That's perfectly fine, but I tend to prefer this method. Just because I don't have to worry about when I'm eating. Additionally, like you could just eat on this phase and just make sure he's not fireballing you. Just you want to stand away from him because, again, he is more accurate. That's, I would say, a normal fireball path. And you saw I would just eat in the middle when I'm not in danger of getting close to the edge. Turn your prayer back on. My timing's a little off because it's still kind of early waking up, you know. But again, it's just something you practice, get used to. It's not necessary. In my opinion, it reduces incoming damage, and that's why I do it. It just lets you ignore so much of the kill. You can go north and south if you like. Sometimes you find aisles like that. Again, just practice at things and you'll find you'll have an easier time dealing with most things. You know, like with anything RuneScape, you just spend enough time doing it, you get better. Whether that be bossing or even skilling methods, like some of them have a learning curve. You just have to spend the right amount of time, and you'll get there. And, you know, sometimes you make mistakes, like get hit by a fireball. Alright, that's maybe one of the worst case scenarios, but just don't panic. Just get into your groove again. As long as you get practiced, you can recover easier from mistakes. Panicking is the last thing you want to do. You're working against yourself. So just the more exposure you have, the more you're going to understand what's happening. And the more you're not going to freak out when you do mess up. So let's start the final kill. By the way, it's an instance, so these last basically forever. Alrighty, that's normal. Warhammer, you tend not to get any specs. If you're struggling, you know, obviously you can force the special attacks to hit. That does make the kill easier, but even if you're getting one kill trips, this pays pretty well. Now I could spec again, and normally I would do it at the end of this phase, I would see it. Oh, wrong, okay. Alrighty. So yeah, you can have run-on, but again, it's better if you don't. Normally, yeah, it just take 40 damage. So let's just eat up. Again, why I don't like to... This is like the perfect example of everything going wrong. Just don't panic. Pay attention to what matters, which is if he can fireball you, that's what he's going to do. Just assume that a fireball is incoming at all times, unless you're on a special phase, a face hugger, or an acid phase. Then your priorities change. You know, you'd have to deal with the phase. Everything else you can kind of ignore and get away with it. That's what this is trying to combat. Movement is priority. In facehugger phase, killing the facehugger is priority. Alright, prayer, decent priority, just under avoiding fireballs. This movement thing is low priority. Just avoid fireballs. Yeah, you still have to kill the facehugger, by the way, when he does that at the end. Kind of annoying, but you know, it happens. Normally I have a couple more food, but you know, just drop it, make room for the stuff. If you're cheap like me, pick it back up, teleport home, and bank it and get ready for a new trip. It's that simple. All right, hope this helped. If not, or if you have questions, let me know. If you have things that I could improve on, please ask, or you know, please state it. Have a nice day.